FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz. It's Wednesday. That means whatever it takes or whatever happens, whatever's next. We've got Andrew Hoffman with us. Andy, what is the state of the world today? Certainly getting no better. Gold is even up a little bit today, isn't it?
It's exactly 1,200.
Exactly.
It's an April Fool on the world. Today I wrote an article called Bad News for Precious Metals, and I was, of course, being facetious because there will never be bad news. There has never been bad news in the 15 years or 13 years I've been in this segment, and with each passing day, the news gets better, whereas conversely, for everything else, it gets worse and worse and worse. And, you can focus on whatever you want. You can focus on, Greece, how much more loudly do they have to scream? Forget the 4-month extension. They're not going to make it through April. I believe the Brexit will occur in April. They have no money. They have no bargaining position. The people want out. They want out. Everyone wants out, and they're going to renege. And that isn't even the big story. The big story is, when will the Chinese unleash their QE and their depegging of yuan? And when will Janet Yellen release hers? We're looking this morning, the ADP employment report. Yesterday, the Chicago Fed, 46 reading at second straight recessionary. Today, the ISM had its biggest drop in, I think, 4 years. Construction spending, again, unexpectedly negative. We're in a recession. We're in a major worsening recession, and it's global right now. And it's only a matter of time before all these things just at once ignite. It's going to be something or everything.
Well, honestly, Andy, the Great Recession never ended. That's the reality of the situation here. But as long as we can give out auto loans to people with pulses who can fog a mirror, I guess we don't have to realize the folly of our ways, do we?
Except that the subprime auto loan business is dying. I think motor vehicle sales have been down 4 months in a row. In fact, today I think we get the last month's data, but it's falling. That it's kind of like the housing. They keep talking about housing recovery, but housing prices. Look at Schiller. Look at the San Francisco, the hottest market. It's been falling for months now. It's falling. There's no housing recovery. Prices are falling. And the same with auto sales. That ship, the subprime ship, has sailed. The delinquencies have yet to hit the world, but the sales part is done. Everything is done and going in the wrong direction right now. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. It's like we're looking at the Japanese numbers. They came out with their Tankin survey today, appropriately named. It couldn't have been worse. Their industrial production was down 3.5%. We're talking about, this is in fact, I think, this month, it's now April, is the end of the official end of the original Abenomics, April 2013. Remember, the plan was to double the money supply within 2 years. Well, it's April 2015 now, and they've already expanded Abenomics, and the economy couldn't be worse. And now they're simply printing money and overtly buying stocks. They're running out of stocks. They've ran out of ETFs to buy, so now they're buying individual stocks. Doesn't help. It helps the 1% that own stocks. But for the rest, it does nothing. It makes them angry, and it doesn't help Main Street at all. So again, it's across the board. It's everywhere, and it's only going to get worse.
Talk about futility, triumph of hope over experience, boy. It's crazy. I just never thought I'd live to see this mass stupidity break out across the planet. Did you?
Well, again, everything is ass backwards. Because of the modern age weapons of mass destruction, being the propaganda, the market manipulation, the money printing, where they've created this twilight zone where 1% of the world benefits and everyone else is destroyed by it. And there's really no better way of describing this, and I've harped on it forever because I despise them so much. I consider, what I consider Alan Greenspan to money printing. I consider CNBC to destroying retail investors' lives. And yesterday, we're talking about 2 days after the NASDAQ NASDAQ hit 5,000, and the U.S. stock market and the German stock market and heck, the Venezuelan stock market are at all-time highs. CNBC hit its all-time lowest rating. And I'm not talking about in 10 years. It's been on the air since like 1991, the lowest ever rating for CNBC, and this with record stocks. Again, no one is listening, no one's paying attention, and no one is profiting. That's the last to go is the stock market, because everything else is crumbling around it. And, it will go either by hyperinflation or by crash. And by that point, no one will even be watching anymore.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, just when you think things couldn't get any crazier, here we are, right?
Yes. And, look at the world that I'm in. I have to be in the world, the other part of the world, the part of the world that has the best fundamentals in the history of mankind. We don't even have miners that are solvent anymore. We don't have production going anywhere. It's going to fall for, probably for the next decade. So demand is exploding. I just read that Chinese demand is 10% above last year's record level year to date. And we're sitting here at the same $1,200 price that we were at 2 years ago. Again, we're in a twilight zone that won't last forever. It seems like it's lasting forever, especially if you're in precious metals. But again, we don't own precious metals to profit. We're not speculating. We hold them because the things that are happening, we predicted would happen. And again, it's a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes don't get smaller. They get bigger and bigger until they blow up, either of their own weight or because they're just hyperinflated away.
Yeah, and we're just sitting around waiting for this to happen. It's just amazing.
But, and again, you talk about this. Like I'm looking at the oil price this morning. Record inventories last night. Record inventories validated again this morning. This Iranian deal, whether it happens or not. It came out of nowhere. It was never a factor. And they're going, well, for the 8th straight week after the inventories come out, the horrible inventories, the oil PPT runs it up. And they say it's because people are excited that there'll be no deal in Iran, which is immaterial. It's the same kind of, ass backward thinking that's completely due to market manipulation and nothing else. The fundamentals of oil are horrible. Oil is going down unless there's a catastrophic war in the Middle East. And I'm not talking about, a little skirmish in Yemen. I'm talking about a real war. Otherwise, oil is going down. End of story. And the same with gold, except that there isn't even a contingency with gold. It is going up. They could say whatever they want. They could try to cap gold here at 1,200 all they want. People are going to keep buying it the world round, and people are going to keep selling their stocks the world round. It's all in the hands of central bankers that, as I wrote in my article yesterday, the ultimate trap rats have no ammunition left, nothing. Their balance sheet was built up to the point where they have no more borrowing power. They can't lower interest rates anymore unless they want to go deeply into negative territory, which is even worse. There's just nothing left to do except wait for that unstoppable tsunami of reality to wipe out whatever hasn't been wiped out already. And around the world, a lot of it has been wiped out. It's only here in, the countries on the top of the currency totem pole, like the United States and England, where things have been slightly less bad, so that people, still have the hope that something might improve.
Yeah, the hope, but that's all they've got is hope, and hope ain't going to pay the bills, is it?
Yeah, and again, you talk about the whole propaganda scheme. It started April 2013. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Obama has his closed-door meeting with the too big to fail banks. The very next day, gold falls $250 and gold $6. And then after that, all you hear about is tapering, and the Fed's going to raise rates and everything's great. We're in recovery. And here we are 2 years later. The Fed is trapped. They have nothing left to do. Interest rates are plummeting. They're plummeting again this morning, back toward the lows. It's what I call the most damning proof yet of QE failure. They have nothing left. They have no more ammo. They can't say recovery anymore. And again, we all know that this outlier that has been the NFP employment reports, they basically everything else they've lost. They've lost today's construction report, durable goods, retail sales, factory orders. Sentiment, everything is going down except for these fraudulent reports. And after seeing the ADP report today, which was so horrible, it's just hard to believe that they're going to be able to print another BS, a better than expected report. And if they don't, if it happens to be another bad report, we're looking at the Fed meeting in just 4 weeks from now. They won't have another fake employment report to put out in front of it. They're going to have to, at some point, hint that not only are interest rate increases never happening, but that they're starting to consider alternative forms of stimulation if needed. That's how they'll start it. Unless, of course, there's like a big catastrophic crash in which they'll just walk in and say, yep, QE4. Otherwise, their guidance will say, it'll start to say things are not evenly balanced, the odds of good and bad. They'll start to say the odds of bad are a little better than good, and therefore we're starting to consider all of our options. That's when you know the Yellen reversal is coming. And, at the pace things are going, it could very well be this end of April meeting where you start to hear that kind of language.
Well, won't be long. And you know that it has to come because nothing is getting better. Everything is getting worse. And hey, they got to do something. They can't just sit around and let the market do things, right?
Yeah, and they certainly can't let the dollar rise. Again, I mean, how much more vehement can I have been for a long time that the rising dollar kills U.S. corporate earnings? And voila, we're sitting here, with stocks near record highs. The earnings estimates on the S&P 500 for 2015 and revenues are down. We're talking about record valuations, stocks near record highs, and the Wall Street themselves, the Pied Pipers, are telling you earnings are going to fall. And a lot of that is because of the strong dollar. And then you have the White House putting out a statement 2 weeks ago, literally the day before the FOMC meeting, saying that the strong dollar is a headwind for U.S. growth. Of course it is. At least politically. I mean, it'll cause inflation if you weaken it, but politically, they don't want a strong dollar. So they are going to knock the dollar down as fast as they can. And remember, the other reason they have to get that dollar down and quick is because if it stays up here this strong for this long, the Chinese are going to depeg the yuan. They're going to feel the strain of the strong dollar killing them, and they're going to depeg the yuan, which is, the equivalent of, as I've said, like a 50 financial earthquake on the financial Richter scale. So again, the pressure on the Fed to stop pretending that there's a recovery, which they've been doing piece by piece, is getting stronger and stronger. And eventually, when the Yellen reversal occurs, it's all over for that 2-year scheme that started in April 2013.
Yep. And it's about time to just stop the illusion anyway. I don't think anyone's buying into it anymore. Do you?
Well, that's why CNBC had a record low rating this week. Can you imagine stocks at record highs and the ratings of the only financial 24-hour financial commentator at record lows? I mean, this is the world that we live in right now. That it's like seeing gold below the cost of production when you have record demand, falling supply, and exponential money printing and debt. But, it's a snapshot in history. It's a unique snapshot that we'll never see again. It might be over by the time this podcast is over, for all we know, but it's not going to last much longer.
Yeah, we've been saying that, but here we are. Years later.
I remember saying the same thing in the late 1990s, or better yet, the late 1990s. I was a youngster, but I vividly remember being vilified during 2005, 2006, 2007. Why won't you buy a house? Houses are great. You can write off the interest payment and the property taxes. You should speculate. We should buy in Florida. The prices never go down. Blah, blah, blah. Maestro Greenspan. That's what happens. You have to be a Cassandra because people don't want to believe things that will hurt them. And believe me, what's coming will hurt them.
Yeah, I'm afraid that this could well be true. And what do you do to prepare? Well, we talk about this every week, don't we?
Yeah. Well, there's many ways to prepare. The most important way to prepare is to simply say to yourself, to accept reality. Everything else is just part and parcel, but you have to look at the world for what it is, and believe what you see and not what people tell you, and act as if something bad might happen. And, it's sad that the vast majority of people don't have the means to do that, even if they wanted to, which is a big reason why so many people don't believe. They don't even vote anymore. They don't even care because they feel helpless. But for anyone who does have the means to protect themselves, accept reality for what it is. and then make your decisions. If you're talking about financially, it's a no-brainer. Get out of debt. Don't speculate on things that are overvalued, or particularly if you have you're expecting really bad times ahead. And of course, save some of your money in real money and not these fiat dollars and euros and yuan and yen that are being destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. And right, but really, we're getting to the time where you're running out of time. I mean, it really looks that way, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And again, I talk to people around the world who email me, and we've talked before many times about how the price of gold in many currencies is at, near, or very close to all-time highs, in which case people become very aggressive buyers. A lot of these countries, they're telling me it's hard to find it. People in Mexico and Australia have been emailing and saying it's very hard to find metal right now. Here, if the prices are low, it's plentiful. Prices start going up, it'll be like 2011, you couldn't find metal. In 2008, you couldn't find metal either. And parts of 2013 and 11 also. I mean, it doesn't take much for the supply to be sucked up. And if you happen to be in one of the countries like the States where you have a very liquid bullion market, I mean, it's just amazing how you wouldn't capitalize on it now while you still can.
Yeah. I mean, hey, not talking our own books here. I mean, that's the one thing you really have to understand. This is just survival we're talking about, right? Not talking our own books.
Yeah. I've been writing about look, I've been all in precious metals since May of 2002. I started writing about it in roughly 2004 regularly, always for free. I've never been paid a penny until I came to Miles Franklin three years ago to say all these things. I've been saying the same thing forever. Right. And, in your site, obviously, you wouldn't be around if it was a financial thing. You're around because people trust it in what you say and do. And, I didn't need to do that all those years, but I did. And that's why I was employed by Miles Franklin, because I told the truth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right. I mean, this is what it comes down to here. So I have some guy who says gold's going down to between $500 and $700, and you're hurting people by telling them to buy it now. And, what I say is insurance policy. You're either going to buy it now. If it goes down to $500 to $700, you won't be able to buy it then anyway when you need it the most. Yeah. Not that I believe it's going to happen, mind you.
First of all,
it's not going to happen.
No, not happening. Not even remotely possible. We're at the point now. I write about it all the time. The mining industry has died here. It's dead now.
Yeah.
Any lower, there won't even be mining companies, let alone ones that are actually doing anything. Mm-hmm. And demand is going up. And if prices go down, they'll go up more. There is no conceivable way that the price can go. Frankly, I don't believe it even could go below 1,000, let alone 500. That's absolutely ridiculous. So to think that the lowest case, the most incredible manipulation in history, could probably get it no more than 1,000. And if it did, it would probably be no different than in 2008, where the real price was much higher. People forget when they talk about, silver was hit from 21 to 9 in 2008. Yes, and when silver was 9 in 2008, the physical price was closer to 18. And the same with gold. First of all, gold ended, got all its gains back immediately. But when it was at its lows, it was a huge premium on the physical. The price is not going down to $500. It's probably not going down to 1,000. And it may not ever go down from here materially, to be honest with you. When you think about the upside, and this is your savings. This isn't even an investment. This is just holding money. And you think, why on earth would you be holding these dollars that are being destroyed and these euros that are being, Japan, their policy is to destroy it. Europe, and the ECB says, we will do whatever it takes to save the euro by destroying it with money printing.
Yeah, we have to kill the village to save it, right?
We talked about this last week. It's just inconceivable how at these prices, how anyone, for the currencies and for the real money, how anyone could not be making such a trade right now. At least a little bit. Heck, anyone, I advise you, go to your local coin shop and buy 1 ounce. Buy 1 ounce of silver and hold it in your hand, and hold it in your other hand a quarter, okay, you'll feel like you're holding a feather in the other hand because it's worthless, okay? The silver is blood, sweat, and tears. It's worth at this suppressed price, $17, and eventually it's going to be worth thousands.
Mm-hmm. I have no doubt, but just view it as an insurance policy. That's what I always say. You're viewing it as an insurance policy. You're buying insurance. So what's wrong with that? Right?
Absolutely.
But the thought that it's going down to $500 to $700, if it does,
it's not. It's not even worth talking about. It will never, ever do that. In fact, it will never go to 1,000. It won't. It can't. There will be no mining industry. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. But look what's going on in the world. What would cause it to go? Do you think the economies of the world are all this? I mean, are people not looking at the Chinese data, the Japanese data, the European data, our data, Canadian data, Brazilian data, Turkish data, Greek data? I mean, are people not looking at these things? Do people not realize that Greece is going to be leaving the euro and probably defaulting in $400 billion of debt it could be within weeks? I mean, people not see these things? Do people not see what's going on? The rift that's being created between Russia and America, the de-dollarization around the world that's being led by China, the money printing everywhere, the collapse in currencies, the collapse in commodities. I mean, we're going to go to $1,000 based on what? What if the BLS says, just makes up some report and says we did 300,000 jobs in March? That means they're going to raise rates to 0.25%, and that's going to take gold down to 1,000. I mean, there's such silly, spurious arguments. It's called propaganda. It doesn't make sense economically, financially, logically.
No, I don't see it. I've never seen it. And hey, I'm the first to admit I could be wrong about things, but I haven't been wrong about this. And you haven't either. And yeah, it's just not happening. I mean, it just isn't. And if we do have this crashing deflation where you're buying a Happy Meal at McDonald's for 10 cents and an ounce of gold is worth $500, well, then you'll be buying condos in Manhattan for 3 ounces of gold. So what's the difference, right?
Right, except that would never happen, because if you had such a crashing deflation as we did in 2008 and 1929, gold was the best performing asset. Gold was up despite the cartel smash and smash and smash. Gold was up in 2008. It was the only asset class in the world. And during the 1930s, gold was up. Well, it was up because it was fixed until, of course, it was revalued upward during the Depression. So if you had something that bad, and I don't think it could happen. I don't think you could have a deflation that bad because the central banks will hyperinflate their debts away. But if you had something where they didn't for some crazy reason and the world fell apart like that, it'd be World War III. And of course, gold would be the best performing asset because it wouldn't lose its value.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with that. I just kind of look at that and just shake my head because it would require some type of event that nobody could ever anticipate. Nothing could happen, and it's just not going to. But in the event that it did, well, we'd be in a whole new economic paradigm, and who knows what the reserve currency would be at that point. But anyway.
Well, put it this way.
Just remember,
there's a reason why the Fed talks about deflation as its biggest enemy, right?
Right. And
yes, some people say, well, because they're really scared of the stock market deflating and all the wealth, which of course it is, because the only wealth that's left in this country is the 1%'s financial assets that are held up by the hyperinflationary monetary policies. But the biggest reason why governments, and that's what the Fed is, it's part of the government, why the governments fear deflation is when they have debt. And who has the most debt in the world? The United States. So if you're talking about a Happy Meal costing 10 cents, like it would probably mean the Dow would crash from 18,000 to like 800 or something. Okay, the U.S. would default on its debt. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. That's why it would never happen. The Fed doesn't just sit there. We're in a fiat Ponzi scheme, and they're the leading fiat Ponzi scheme purveyors. So, of course, that's not going to ever happen. I mean, they get nervous and change the language in their statements if the Dow goes down for 2 days in a row, let alone if it actually was a 2008 style. And again, you talk about that kind of stock market crash. We're talking about, all the Lehmans of the world are gone. Except this time it'll be the Goldman Sachs's and the Morgan Stanleys and the Bank of America's.
Life as we know it.
There'll be no one left to bail them out.
Life as we know it will cease to exist. Anyway, check out Andy's work, milesfranklin.com. Subscribe to his daily missive and his audio blog, as well as Bill Holter's. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, our upcoming webinars. And Andy, we will talk to you next week.
Looking forward to it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.